Hey everybody, it's Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa, and today I'm so excited because I'm going to show you how to paint a parrot tulip at home. If you're wondering what this gorgeous flower is, it is a parrot tulip. I love it because it reminds me a little bit of a fish. Oh my goodness, you have the sound on. On the mic is my husband, John.
Hello.
And he's got me an echo because we are live right now, but you know what he does? Well, besides turn the sound on, he helps me teach you guys art at home by making sure the camera is pointing at what we're doing, making sure the audio is working, make sure that all the technology is where it's supposed to be, that my head is the right size so that it doesn't block what I'm doing. He just like all the things. And he talks to you.
Sometimes.
But really more importantly, here's the big thing. Today, I'm super going to show you how to paint this. If you want to paint flowers, if you like to paint flowers, you're going to love this class. We're really going to break it down. I'm going to share with you the core things that you need to know to be successful in painting flowers. There's just a few tips and things that you always have to keep in mind no matter what flowers you paint. So it's going to be great for that. It is a intermediate to Hoot class, but it's still focused for beginners. I rate all of my classes for beginners because I don't expect you to know things at home. And so I break it down into 1 Hoot, 2 Hoot, and 3 Hoot. 1 Hoot is like, I have never painted before or since grade school. Or 3 Hoot, which is like, I've been painting with you a few paintings and I kind of understand the terms and techniques and I have more of the material. This is sort of in the middle of that, but it is still explained for a beginner. Now, importantly, check the description below. I don't expect you to be able to draw when you are starting out in your art journey. I think you will learn it as you go. It's something that kind of comes in organically, but it's not required. And because of that, there is a free traceable provided. Also, we write out step-by-step instructions that we call mini books, and that is the materials in each step, what we did in the step, and a step photograph. No joke, that you can download and use. Those come out a few days after the show, but that can make a big difference in your result because if you watch the show and you get the mini book and you put those together, they really tie together. To make those things tie together, we do a thing. After the show, in the description below, I will chapter mark this video. So as we go through steps, we will timestamp that, and that will divide the video up into those sections. Those sections will match the chapter in the book. So you got a plan here, and it's free. I know you're coming to terms with that because you're like, it's so good. How can it be free? There must be a catch. Well, the catch is that I have pink hair and I'm pretty chatty, but if you can get around that, I'm absolutely going to show you how to paint this painting. Did I say enough words in a short enough amount of time?
I think so.
I feel like I was selling Hot Wheels there for a second.
You introed us.
I introed you. You have been introduced. Would you like to know the materials we're going to be using in today's show?
All right.
The materials, the material world. All right. Ooh. My clever music people, you should write a spoof on Material Girl, the Materialist. That would be fun. You guys are, you know me, I'm musical enough to sing a few bars, but like get lost in the weeds of the song. Okay. Today, we're doing an 8x8 surface. I do a yearly program where we do a 30-day painting program or 30 painting program, and they're always on 8x8s. And because of that, after I like to do a few little 8x8 lessons to make sure that all my Acrylic April family has more projects to do after. You can see the reference of what we're painting, and you can also find that on the website. So 8x8 surface. On the surface, I have a wish or intention that I'm putting out into the universe, which is that the rescue team and the rescue support people in Florida are getting the love and support and mental health care that they need, that there is support for the families, and that everybody who can be rescued is absolutely rescued. On the paints today, Mars Black, Cad Yellow Medium, Burnt Sienna, Phthalo Green, Quinacridone Magenta, Cadmium Red, and let's put out some Titanium White. Those are the colors we're going to be using in today's video. I don't expect to need more colors than that. It's pretty much going to be that day. I'm going to show you how to make a cool purple with green and red. That'll be fun because I like to show you weird color mixes. But now I'm realizing I need to point them out.
You do.
Yeah, I've always showed them to you, but I never thought to be like, did you know? Did you know? You made this color.
And sometimes it's just reminding you that you know it. You just didn't know
you didn't know you know it.
You're just like, oh yeah, I knew to do that. I just didn't,
Remember that I knew to do that. That's the thing. You know more than you think that you know. You're really capable of doing this.
You can do it.
I've got a brush out. This is a 24-inch Textura. Textura is a synthetic super heavy body paint brush. And what that basically means is this is heavy body paint. It's not liquidy like what you have in a craft bottle, though you can use craft bottle paint. That's totally fine. It's real paint. But it just means that this brush is a little stiffer, so it has an easier time managing the heavier paint. And this is a bright. Ignore the size number. I'll tell you, it only is important if you're going to buy this exact brush in this line. Other than that, the numbers mean nothing. Things you might not know about art. The numbers mean nothing. They're just, I don't know why they're there.
Such a wonderful topical segue. I want to welcome Blooming Lotus to the Art Sherpa YouTube, what is it here? Emoji Club.
Emoji Club. Welcome to Emoji Club. You get to have custom emojis. Use them in the chat.
Such a pretty name for such a topical flower, because this is the parrot tulip.
This is the parrot tulip, so we're kind of on topic today. Give me a step.
A step? You want? Man.
This is a step.
You're like.
I'm about it. Because
Okay,
you can do this, guys. I'm absolutely sure today that I'm going to help you have a breakthrough about your flower painting. I'm going to drink some coffee. Do you think I should have some?
I don't know.
Check out my cup. Check out my cup. It says, I'm so busy, I don't know if I found a rope or lost a horse. I have in real life had that experience.
You're just standing
in
there.
real life, found a rope and been like,
I'm not sure what the problem is here. But this rope should be attached to a horse.
Or a fence or something. Why is this lead rope here? Legit experience ahead of my life, so a good friend got that for me. I'm going to take my black paint and paint the whole canvas black. You can paint the sides. A lot of people like to. If you have the really deep, thick canvases with the really wide stretchers, I do recommend it because those are very challenging and expensive to frame. In fact, they're made so you don't have to frame them. These are made so you can frame them, so it's optional to paint the side. If you're not going to frame them, you may want to paint the sides. It'll make the canvas look nicer on the wall. If you are going to frame it, worry about it. See, we're doing this, painting it black. Easy step, right? Look at you. You're already an artist.
Just giving it a little.
Anybody comes by and is like, how you doing? You'd be like, I'm great. Step one, nailed it.
This is the most challenging step.
It is. Everything after this is easy peasy lemon squeezy.
Because then from here, this is the most abstract part you have to grapple your head around, which is getting your head around the darkness.
Darn.
But once it's done, then it's easy. You just paint the light.
You're just going to paint the light. And what's nice about this is it's going to make using the traceable particularly easy. Now, I am going to dry this, and we're going to call this, step. We're going to go on to the next step, which is putting the image on the canvas. Here's the thing, guys. To do the next step, this needs to be dry completely. See how it's very wet there? And it needs to be cooled down. You don't want to be using a lot of heat on that hair dryer, and you want it to be cool before you apply the chalk lines, the traceable, whatever it is. My hair dryer is tangled in the world.
All right, there it is.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I'm going to dry this painting.
And there she goes. While you're drying your surface, do remember that acrylic paint responds to heat. And so in lots of different ways that may be unpredictable to people who've never applied heat to paint before. And that is that it can do a thing called color shifting, and that's where it will lighten or darken based on some of the polymer compounds in there to make a slightly different shade. And that's when you use heat. So they, generally speaking, it's advised not to use heat. Some sheen change is normal when it dries. So it may go from shiny to matte. That's different than color shift. But in general, heat also makes it soft and more sticky, which makes it hard so that your next layer of paint can either stick too much or, and this is another thing that can happen, is that the paint that you're painting on will lift up the paint underneath it. So it's really important to make sure it's thoroughly dry and cool. That right?
Is my sound on?
Yeah.
I'm speaking again to you at home. How are you doing today? I hope you're feeling really good. All right. I have a very important message while we go. John takes the picture and we throw up the step.
That's right. We'll just
Very important message.
talk to them first.
This is an important two-part health message. The first part is that you should not be bent over and hunched over when you're painting. So if you're painting flat, I know the temptation is sometimes to put it in your lap. That can be really hard on your back and neck and cause some issues here. So remember to be very mindful of your body if you are working flat or working on a table. And I work completely flat and I use my Lazy Susan to get around my visibility issues. You could also use a low tilt easel that just kind of lifts it a bit for you if you like a flat surface, but you need to have it tilted to see it better. That is health message 1. Health message 2, because I love you and I want you to be okay, is that your phone is too small to paint from. I need you to cast on your TV.
Mm-hmm.
If you can, if there's any way you can put these streams on a bigger device. Oh, I didn't know what you were doing. I was like handing it back. That is not where I want it. That is not where I want it.
Where do you want
I want it here. I don't know where you're putting it, but that's
put it
not
where you
I
want.
want.
I'll adjust.
Okay. Is that okay?
Yeah, I can put it wherever I want.
Okay. All right. Here's where I want it. Okay.
Okay.
Because I'm
That's
the
where I want it, right there.
star. The man's on set. No, this is like not a set. It's a table.
You know what?
But let's pretend it's a set. Okay. So here's the thing. Your screen is small and your eyes are going to get tired and it can be really hard on your vision, especially if you're a little bit older. So if you can find out about casting to your TV or to a larger device or secondary screen, that if it's possible, that's a really good idea. If it's not, I want you to take ample breaks and rest your eyes and do eye resting exercises like putting a cloth over them or doing what you need to do. Like, this is stuff we're not thinking about, guys. No one's talking about it. No one's talking about it, and
wait.
it's happening.
You're not there yet.
I'm not where?
Step it.
You forgot to step it because I
I
was
know, this is where
monologuing
we
like a
start the
villain.
step 2.
I was monologuing like a villain, and you thought she's not ready.
I thought you would wait for you to.
Okay.
That would all be part of the step 1.
Okay. So I'm going to explain what I'm putting on this paper here. I have taken low tack tape. That's tape that doesn't have a high stickiness. And a product called Ceril paper, and you can see there's a bright yellow side and a dull yellow side. This is a type of carbon paper, but it's not really carbon. It's for art, and it removes as you paint. Now, that works only if your canvas is thoroughly dry and cool, because if your surface is wet or warm, it can take and hold any pigment or any line. So that's the thing to think about. You just want to make sure it's cool to the touch. It shouldn't feel like you could warm a baguette on it. Don't warm a baguette on your painting. I just wanted to say baguette. Clearly. Now this here is, see, I had some wet on my canvas. It wasn't completely dry. This is what's called a traceable. It is just a line drawing, contour line drawing of the subject matter. And we're going to use this to help us plan our space a little bit better on the surface. And so I'm going to come here and I'm going to position my tulip where I would like it to be. Where would you like your tulip to be? That's where you decide. And then I'm going to take 2 pieces of tape. Again, low tack tape. Low tack tape. Oh, Twix, I'm sorry. Twix is under my. I've annoyed her now and she's left. I'm sorry, Twix.
I have some good questions for you when you're ready here.
I would love to answer your questions because I'm an art teacher online and that's why I do this.
This is one that I think that you know because I kind of, in my vague
You hope
way
I
back,
know and you're not like pouncing me with a question I don't have the answer to, but that's okay. Whenever I don't have the answer to a question, I find it out and get it back.
Yeah, this is one that I think we covered in a previous video.
Okay.
So Gus was asking, do you remember, did
I remember.
Frida Kahlo
Oh.
freehand her painting drawings beforehand? Did she sketch them in or did she just paint them?
You know, I don't remember her process.
Okay. So
I will find out. However, if you go to the Frida Kahlo, has all of her collection is curated by a group, and her website, which is the Frida Kahlo website.com, has a lot of that. And there's been a tremendous number of not the Selma Hayek, cool as she is, video, but there's been a lot of documentaries and stuff done about her. So that's information for sure that you can find out. And I will find out after the show and put it in the comments for you, because I don't know that off the top of my head. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm taking a colored pencil and I'm pressing down real hard. And I'm tracing over the lines that I have. And that'll just help me know where my objects and my shapes are. We're going to paint it in. So at this point, a lot of this detail is not as big of a deal as you might think. It just helps me know where things are going to go.
Now, a lot of people use traceables throughout history.
Yes. Michelangelo used traceables. Most of the Renaissance masters used traceables. They call them cartoons.
All of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles used them. Raphael, Donatello,
All of
Leonardo,
them.
Michelangelo.
So here's the thing about drawing. Drawing is an awesome skill, and I highly recommend you develop it. You will, as you paint, naturally, believe it or not, start to develop some drawing understanding. But it is not the only skill in art, and it shouldn't be a barrier to your creative expression. There are many artists that do not draw, that are skilled artists, and universally thought as skilled artists. So drawing is a great skill, and I know how artists sometimes, if they're very good at rendering, will feel like, oh, well, if someone isn't drawing, then they're not really making art. But that isn't how art works. Thank goodness. Thank goodness that isn't how art works. There's some great channels about drawing, and you can take that up. I've got even a few videos on drawing. Take up drawing. It's fun. Don't let it freak you out, though. Right? This wouldn't be the first thing. Actually, we have a challenge that just went up on my community tab. If you're on your phone or your desktop, you can see it. And I did a graphite of some realistic lips of a painting I'm going to do later. And I said to you guys, as a challenge, practice doing little pencil studies of what you're going to paint. It will help you see value. I'm pro drawing. There's some weird thought among some, I don't know. So I discovered something recently, John. People think I have a large YouTube channel.
You know, it's funny that we just feel like we're in this quiet corner of YouTube saying, all right, we're going to teach you guys to paint. Come on over.
Right.
We're like in our backyard teaching you guys how to paint.
But sometimes people think I have a large channel, so that makes them think certain things, like it's okay to lift ideas, or it's okay to get like a little punchy, or all those things, right? And so or to perceive me in a negative light that they maybe wouldn't for all artists. But here's the thing. I'm not anti-drawing at all. I'm just anti you not painting because you're not ready to draw yet.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's all it is. That's just the true. That's the true. And also, this is YouTube. This isn't a large channel. You have a large channel if you have 10 million subscribers.
I'm going to say
thank you. That is a large channel.
We've got lots of wonderful patron supporters.
Patrons! Hi, patrons!
Art high five to Christopher and his kids who painted your windy snowmen. And
oh, hey, that is so cool.
Thank you, guys. We really appreciate your support.
I love to hear that, too. I love to hear about your painting with each other and with your family members and how that's going. That is like one of my favorite things. Now, this is a step. And John's going to take a picture of this step, and I'm going to put out some more paint. He's going to reach across here, across the universe, and then he's going to take a picture, which will become eventually your mini book, and then he's going to return it back, and we shall move on. I am loving today. Again, I love to paint betta fish. Love to paint them. Love to paint betta fish. I've done watercolor betta fish, and I've done a couple acrylic betta fish. I have actually a ton of betta fish acrylic paintings you've never even seen, and they're not here because they're not good. I just ran out of, I was just like, people don't want to paint that many betta fish is when I think I got to. I was like, I have painted a lot of betta fish, but does anyone else want to paint that many betta fish? And so I decided they probably would not, and then it didn't become a video. That said, I have a lot of betta fish. I like them. And this has some similar feeling, and I really like the frilling of this flower. I actually want to plant this particular tulip for next year. I haven't told John that. He just found that out right now.
I just learned that.
You just learned that, and that's what I want. And I'm going to go online, and I'm going to find this exact flower, and I'm going to plant it, and then you may end up repainting it, because that's how life works out. That's how life is, man. Sometimes you think you're out of a situation, but no, you're not out of a situation.
Sounds like I'm going to be planting some flowers in the spring.
I think we got to put them in the fall.
Yeah.
They bloom in the spring. That's my plan.
There's hole digging in my future.
Tulips used to be worth more than a house.
If you ask
small fortune, kings and queens were bought and sold on tulip bulbs. All right, bubbles.
You might say I'm good at digging holes.
You are good at digging holes. I got your pun there. You're so punny. I'm going to tell them the colors, though.
They're your
He's
colors.
funny, and I'm the art teacher. All right. Titanium white, quinacridone magenta, cadmium red medium, cadmium yellow, burnt sienna, phthalo green, titanium white, and still Mars black. That is, again, the palette where we're at. And we're going to start to block in the flower. Let's begin with a round brush. This is a number 4 Art Sherpa round brush. Yes, like my name. Now you can get these on the Michaels website online, and you can use the half-off coupon. The brush guys have them for sale, and if you use the Art Sherpa, you get a discount, a 5% discount. King's Framing and Art has them. Jackson has them. A bunch of places. You can go online and find them, and they're on Amazon. This round brush, I do think, is pretty spectacular. And you can get them while supplies last. Ooh. I'm going to take a little of my brown and green. Brown and green. And I'm going to paint in my stem. And it's so dark, it might as well be a black at first. Nice smooth application of the brown and green paint. You can't see it all except for the chalk outline. Now, what I do is I add a little yellow, just a little bit, and I'm going to come to the underside of my petal, and I'm going to come up and make just a slightly lighter stripe. And then the top. So the deep shadow is actually at the middle of the stem. This is different than we sometimes do. Much more yellow. Look at us go. Much more yellow.
Now, is this step 3, right?
Yes.
Okay, we got to give them step 3.
Wait, no. Yeah.
Because 1
I
was
said
drawn,
it.
2 is black.
I
3.
said it.
I just want to make sure.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that we didn't miss it. Because I'm sitting here going backwards, counting in my head. Wait a minute, we should be on step 3. I want to make sure I step 3 because I don't want to not miss that.
But you did.
Maybe I got it. Better late than never.
I have some yellow in my mix. Look, you guys just need to know where things basically are, so when the mini book comes out, you can find your spot again. That's what it's all about. I added a little white. So this is a mix I do if you do my 403 color recipe video. This is my favorite green that I like to make. And I'm coming here with a very light version of it over the top. So it goes burnt sienna, cadmium green together, and that makes the deep color. And then I lighten it with cad yellow. Right? I lighten that green with cad yellow, and then I lighten that light green with white. I'm going to take another little stripe up there. So what we're doing is we're just making sure that our little stem has some nice shading, but that there's a nice dark shadow right in the middle. I'm just brushing back and forth. Now we're doing, I've got just this nice stem kind of popping out. Again, back with the green. Yeah, it's a lot of thought to put into a stem, I know.
No, but it's important. It's like these things, it's the base that holds the flower up.
It is, and it also will determine if your painting looks realistic or not. Now I've just mixed my lightest color, which is my lightest green, with a little bit of yellow and white. And I'll put this pop of high contrast highlight up here. All right. Looking good. Got some lighting on it. You can always come here and smooth this out. And there you go. That's the step. Next, you take a picture and call this, and then we'll move on to step 4.
There we go.
There we go. Now we're cooking with fire. Woo! Painting tulips. Such busy business. This particular tulip is a little bit busier than you might think, and I'm going to introduce you to some really cool tools that will help you paint it. I definitely have found some fun brushes and things along the way that make certain tasks much easier. They're not necessarily the first brushes you would go out and buy, but if you're going to paint consistently at all, I do recommend them because they do just give you such great effect and result. But first, we've really got to paint in, let me get a cat's tongue, I think. We're going to paint in the layers. We've got to kind of make them different layers and sort of get this general tulip in. So I'm going to begin with maybe some of the white and the gray and white. I'm going to load up my brush with white paint. This is also an Art Sherpa brush. You could just use a filbert. This is a number 8 cat's tongue brush in the Art Sherpa line. Again, Michael's website will have that if you're looking for that. I'm going to add a little bit of green to this mix, but you can see it's not deep green. It's just kind of adding a little bit of a green cast. And I'm going to come here on the toe of my brush, and we're going to start to very lightly brush in. Now, here's the trick with flowers just generally. You have to paint in the direction that the flower would grow. So I wouldn't want to do this petal horizontally. I want to pay attention to the way that the little frills are going to work. And there we go. Ready to put that in. And this is just a slightly light green. Now I know I've got a little bit of maybe white here, and I'll come on the toe and curl around. Isn't that beautiful? I didn't press very hard, so I got more of that nice color. Up here, it might be a little more green. And I'll come in very lightly on that. A little bit of that there. Now again, we have lots of layers and things to do. So there's a minute to do it. Sometimes we'll get more green on this into my white. And if you need to get a little more water into it, you can. And this is just the beginning. You see how I curve the brush strokes to start to talk about these different little spaces? That's going to help me. And then where I want a little more green, and I'm going to come back with some shadow and everything here as well. So we will have we just got to get some basis of where we're going. All right. Those are some interesting strokes. Look at the direction of them. I'm painting the direction that the flower would grow. So if the leaf curls over, I've got to paint that curl. If it's a wave, I got to paint that curl. If it's a cloud, I got to paint that curl. Cloud. I'm fine. You're okay too. Now there's so many layers to really enjoy here. So please feel like you've got a second to do that. And I'm just pulling this here. Now, I do have some benefits that my heavy-bodied paint really shows the stroke, so I'm not losing my layers as I paint things. And this is, again, blocking in. Blocking in is me painting in like some base details, but not like detailed details, right? Just the basic information that I might need, but not all the information that I've got. And that's going to help me later as I'm painting the flower. Okay.
Looking really nice.
I think we've got a good placement of white. Let's call that a step. And then we'll come back and kind of block in some of the more magenta colors. Then we'll detail out, we'll start to detail out the little frills and folds and curls of the flower. It's weirdly, in some ways, an easier flower because it's such a hot mess. All right, you ready? I'm going to sip my coffee. I think we've already done step 4. This is 5. I love how I'm like, oh, we're going to do this. We're going to be amazing. And then we're super confusing. I curse it because I said before the show, I'm like, we're going to be amazing today. We're going to teach the heck out of this. I call the gremlins in. You ever done that? Call the gremlins in. Luckily, I have a lot of what's around me is wood, so I can knock on it all day. clear my energy. All right, while we're doing this, let's breathe in the good. Breathe out the bad. Breathe in our creativity. Breathe out the things that frustrated us this week. Breathe in the good. Breathe out our worries. Straighten out our flower like you do. And now we're going to put in some of the color. Now, again, this is just the beginning. We're just thinking and talking about and being about this flower a little bit. I'm going to use my cat's tongue until it's too big to functionally use, and then I'll switch to my number 4 round. Again, this is the Art Sherpa cat's tongue. You can get it on Michael's while supplies last. I'm going to take my Cad red medium and my quinacridone magenta, and I like to mix them together. And even though I know I'm going to come back with white and a bunch of other colors, I want to just start to put this little bit of color in. I know where I'm going. It can be a little dark over the black initially, and that's because, you know, paints can be transparent. But again, we're just trying to say we have a flower, and our flower takes up about this much space in its color and process. And I just kind of look at the patterning, and I may make adjustments to the Dalmatianing of what's happening here. I want these in a vase. You can see I'm just kind of paying attention to the petal curl. Little red. The 2 reds together make one of my favorite color combos. They really do. And it's okay if I go over little white areas. I'm just starting to think about where does stuff go. And by putting it in and covering it up, I'm starting to lay those processes in. Very loose, very blocked out, not a problem. We're going to call this a step, and then we're going to come back and start detailing out our outer and distant frill. So I'm looking for brushes that I want to show. I'm going to show you 2 ways of doing this. I'm going to show you with a round, and then I'm going to show you with the brushes that I like to use. I just want you to be able to see that you can do it with any brush that you have in your bucket, because you can. So in this, I've got to look at the layers. Where are the layers of the flower? And you want to kind of paint them where they're the furthest out and things layer on top of them. So if I took my round brush, and I am going to see how dirty my water is, I'm going to switch out my water to some clean water because I want my colors to stay bright. And I'm going to paint some of this distant white here, and I'll use my round at first. Let's get our round in here. And I'll grab some of my green. And I'm now in a detailed way going to start to paint in this petal. And I'll use this to make sure that my edges are a little edged out. At the base, I can come in with a little more green and kind of blend that out because this has some fantastic little greens to it, doesn't it?
Hmm.
And I want to play with that where I know that that's going to be because I want this flower to look like the sculptural piece that it is. I might grab a little right here and be like, oh, there's a weird little pearl. And it's got a little pink to it. And I'm edging that. Might get a little bit of just my magenta and come in here and add a little pop of that pink. I can always grab more green. Phthalo green and just kind of work that. So we're really painting the petals. Now I'm going to come here. I'm going to do an interesting thing. I'm going to take my magenta and my phthalo green together, and they're going to make a purple. That's right. My quin magenta and my phthalo green make a purple. And that's going to be kind of where I get my shadows for it. Instead of using black on the petals, I'm going to use this color. I could use black. I just don't want to. I think this will be fun, and so I'm going to use it this way. And I'm going to use this to talk about how some of these petals are maybe folded. That's quite colorful, isn't it? I'll rinse out, and I'm going to come back with some white. Just some nice white. And add some layering.
That's an interesting question.
Oh, I'd love to answer it.
Is there a bright, where did it go? Bright but transparent yellow color. That's, I think, all of them, yeah?
Yeah, all yellows are bright and transparent because yellow as a pigment just by nature tends to be, I would say it's harder to find a yellow pigment that is opaque. I'm adding a little bit of shadow color here. It is very hard to find that.
The ochres tend to cover well, but they tend to not be that poppy yellow.
Yeah, they're not a poppy yellow in any way. I'm going to come here. Speaking of yellow, I can add a little yellow into my white, warm it. Nice and streaky little petal. It's what you want. Now this one is an interesting one. I'm going to take my strong amount of my magenta in my cad red. And this petal comes here. And grows out towards the right. I want to make sure that I capture that. And it's a little bit deep. And then out here towards the outer edge, you know, it might catch a little light. So add a little white to my brush, and I'm going to streak this back. There's a little shadow that's right here. I want to be mindful of that. And then another little shadow that comes as the top petal layers over it. I get a little white into my brush. Pull this up. Maybe a little yellow into that mix and white. And you'll see that the petal, we are paying attention to the directionality that it's growing. And I'm going to layer this petal over this, but to do that, I've got to kind of pull that one in. I'll have to cross this petal over the top. Let me get a little of my red. Add red. And I'll add a shadow back here in a minute. But let's take it to there because that was a lot to take in. There's a lot happening on that flow. So let's call this a step. We're going to dry everything a little bit and come in and do some more layering.
All right.
Okay. And I need to heat my coffee.
You dry that first?
Yeah.
Okay. So while she's drying, I'll say, if you guys would like to get notified when we go live, you can send a text message to the number 33222 and send the word The Art Sherpa, all one word, and we'll get you guys notified.
Yes, and if you're on Instagram, don't forget to follow my Instagram account. I do a lot over there. There's weird, unusual stuff. There's little music videos. I do share the artwork that I'm doing. It's a great place to share with me if you don't want to share on Facebook. Definitely check out the Instagram, Art Sherpa Instagram. Follow up and enjoy the feed because it's sort of art and music and art videos and sometimes lives and just weird stuff all the time. Weirdness. If you like weirdness and you like Instagram and the hashtag, it's hashtag the Art Sherpa so you can share with me. And I try to check that pretty regularly. Just gives you an alternate place to share. We all need an alternate place to share, don't we? So lately, Facebook has been almost tolerable. It really has been. Getting better. Getting better. All right. Are you guys ready? Have we done a step?
Yes.
All right. We're going to continue on. I'm going to wet my brush. I'm going to get a little of my green going again, which is my yellow and brown and green together, that kind of muted yellow green. I'm going to come underneath here. And I'm going to brush up a little bit of that color. Maybe a little bit right there, just peeking it out a few places. Don't be afraid to let your colors show. And sometimes I need a little more white. So I can come right here and blend that in a little bit where that heel is. You can see we just keep going the direction that the flower is flowing. It's an important step. Now I'm going to take my magenta and my phthalo green again, which makes us that deep purple, which we do like. And I'm going to add a bit of that to right here because we're going to need to piece out some shadow in that petal. I'll rinse out. I'm going to get a little of my yellow and red together. Notice that I let the edges of my tulip here be very frilled. I'll streak that through there. And then back into the magenta blend. Like make little lines. The little lines always tend to have an S curve to them or some type of little bit. And I can start to come here and work this out here. This little outer frill pillow. And then as I move inward, I'll just grab my magenta. Sometimes we just want a little bit of a frill. It's like saying a thrill, but it's just a little bit of a frill. A little bit of white on that outer edge and then kind of rinse out. And then we're back into that interesting kind of green. And a little white into it.
Yeah, Brenda was like,
white into it.
Brenda was like, I look away for a minute, then turn around and bam, there's a flower.
Flower. It's fun. Look, they can be frustrating, right? Because we have such strong feelings about them. That's why flowers are frustrating, is that we have strong emotions about flowers and we want them to look and feel a very specific kind of way. And if we feel that they're not, even, it doesn't really matter what they are doing, if we perceive that they're not getting there, then we can be a little frustrated with them. Just kind of layering that green in, and then I come back with a little bit of white, maybe some yellow. And then bring that around here like that. Fun.
Really unusual isn't the right word. Maybe unconventional flower to be painted.
It is a very unconventional flower to be painted. But I think for me, it is a better flower to be painted. I'm just curving these strokes and letting them layer in, and kind of the edge of the brush is making that little frilled vent. Back with a bit of a blend. The thing is that we can all just paint a daisy.
I have to say thank you to Debbie, who sent over lots and lots of stars on
Thank
Facebook.
You for the stars.
All the stars on Facebook. Oh my gosh, I just looked over here for a second and it's like there's a starfall on Facebook.
Starfall on Facebook. Thank you for the starfall.
Connie. Man, like so phonetically spell things like J-O-A. Thank you. Oh wait, that's Joe.
Are you doing the J-O-A thing again? Because that bit is so old.
But it is. It's true. I phonetically spell or pronounce everything.
I'm adding a little bit of purple. That's kind of our shadow there in that color. Now, in all seriousness, though, I'm going to grab a little of my Quinn and my green and get that deep shadow color going. And then let's come up underneath this petal. And make sure that we've got a deep shadow that is demonstrated here. Now that helps pull that petal out from where it's at. We're just following the directions of the growth. Gonna get a little more white. Gonna curve a little bit of a highlight there. A little bit of green. I like the green very much. The green makes me super happy. All right. See, it's a lot. We're doing a lot. We come in and we get a lot going on. But you know what? Look at our big, big result. I'm going to come in and get some very magenta. I'm going to turn my canvas to the side a little bit for myself, guys.
All right.
Just to make things easier.
I'm telling you, that's one of the workingest Susans I know.
Just adding a little bit of the tulipy edge.
Referring to the
I know you
table that spins underneath for everyone who's like, what are you talking about? Making some obscure reference to Susan. Who's Susan?
And that gives us a nice little edge there on that petal. Come back with some white. I love to paint flowers. This is the calming.
Now, those directional strokes really build a lot of that flower texture, don't they?
You have to pay attention to the direction the petal grew. That's a big thing. I could not do this and go crosswise with these strokes. I have to pay attention to the flow and form and curl of the petal. If the petal grows back and curls back, that's what my brush stroke has to take into account. Has to. There we go. I feel like I'm getting there. I feel like I am. Now I'm going to take a little bit of pink. Make sure I don't have any hidden anything. Hidden water drop. Brush stroke a little bit of highlight there. A little bit of pink highlight. Some deep.
Thank you, Deborah.
All right, I think we are starting to find some space. Now let's come and finish this frill, and that way the next step we can layer an amazing tulip over the top of that. So if for any reason your painting gets away from you and you paint out too much, remember that you can come back with the background. One of the nice things about painting a solid surface like that is you can always adjust the edge. I'm going to get a fresh water, and soon I'm going to need fresh water. This is my last fresh water cup. And then we're going to kind of paint this little edge frill here. And the reason we're painting the structures in the order that we are, in the way that we are, is so that as we layer or we have to put a petal over another petal, we have nice directionality with everything that we've got.
Mm.
I'm going to come here and a little yellow. Come here, brush this back. I'm brushing this back. fun to do.
Yeah.
I'm brushing a little bit of a dusted pink coming up. A bit of the shadow and the pink. That way, as the petal comes up, a little yellow and the green. Some of the green through that petal. A little cad red and magenta, with some white. Pulling that there. Doesn't that look lovely? All right, let's call that a step. And we'll come back and frill some more. Frill some more. I haven't even gotten out of a round. And I decided to do that because I just want you guys to know you can paint this whole thing with a brush. Oftentimes, if you have the right brush, you can paint with just a few brushes. You don't need that many. And then it's lovely to add, but 4 good brushes will beat 20 brushes any day. One of the brushes you want to make sure you bring into your life is a really fantastic round. It just will make life easier. Now, coming forth here, I've got to go across there. Have we put up a step? Okay, and you're getting me one. All right. So I'm going to start to add some petal across the others. There we go. That's all it takes. It just really is that. I'm going to add some yellow into that. Now I have a nice little frill there. Bring a little yellow green brushed up. There we go. Pulling those up. And I'll go ahead and pull my thing to the side here so that I can get a nice directionality on my brush stroke. Make sure I have a slightly pink off-white petal. And that's just so that I can add some highlights to it when I need it. I'll come here and get a little bit of my magenta and my cad red. Get into more of my cad here. Magenta and green, making that terrific deep purple. Pull that up. So we're just giving that petal shape. See how it's starting to come together? Isn't it cool how these flowers are really actually rather delightful and fun to paint? Get into my pink a little bit. Get a little white into the magenta. Brush that back a bit. There we go. Get into some white. And see, I added kind of a bright pop of white there. You can add little bright pops of white to create drama where drama is needed. So needed. Now back into this interesting little purple color with the white, because we're going to come up on this one here. That's good. Kind of adding that bit there. Get into my magenta. Add red to make sure that I shade that. And a little highlight. And maybe a little shadow. I'm going to turn this to the side, rinse very thoroughly, and get a little of my magenta and cad red together. A little yellow into it. Fire. This fire. This is fire. Look at that. Back into my magenta and white. Pulling those stories as we go. Rinsing, 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 rinsing. And then I'm going to grab some white. Maybe it'll have a little shadow color in it, but it's white. And I'm going to turn my canvas just so that I can get that angle. Rinse out. Do the little curve white. And then I've got to bring a little pink between those. So I'm pulling the pink up. A little more magenta. And we're curling that petal around. Can you see that petal curl?
I do.
Okay. Let's call this a step. Let's dry everything. And then we will continue on with our parrot tulip, which is just straight fire. I love it. I'm going to drink my coffee. You're doing it. You're doing it at home. If you're feeling stressed, remember, take a deep breath. Breathe in your creativity. Breathe out the weak. This is just painting. We're just painting.
So, thank you guys for all your support and being here with us and hanging out. And yes, I know there's a lot of chat here about painting some of the last acrylic April Phoenix painting we affectionately call Fire Chicken. There have been a couple various Fire Chickens that we have seen come and go on the channel. I encourage you to explore them all. They tend to be the Phoenix Fire Chickens. You'll see people talk about those. Yep. I was explaining what a fire chicken was.
Because it's straight fire. Did you put up a step?
Not yet.
Are you taking a picture?
Take a picture?
Yeah, that's right. Wow, are we on 9 already? Are you sure? Wow, we're like whip, 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 whip. That was fun stuff. I dried it mostly. Did you smear the paint? Okay. I will try not to bump it. I do. I see it in there. And it is shiny. It's also quinacridone. So that's a confusing thing because it could be quinacridone is just still feeling a little shiny. So the thing to remember is when you're building a complex flower, we can build a rose, we can build structures we really understand. One of the nice things about these parrot tulips is your brain has no opinion on it. It's at some point it just goes, I don't know, petals are doing a thing. You just do it however you want. And you don't end up arguing with yourself through the whole process of a rose should be like this. And your brain's going, but it looks like this. And your brain's like, but it should be. This falls down on a parrot tulip because your brain's like, I don't even know what this is. Is it a fish? Is it a flower? John saw it. He was like, are you sure you want to put that up? Because it looks like a fish.
Well, what it was is it was the least clearly identifiable as like, I know what that flower is. That's a very furry flower. It's got a lot of frilly bits. And I was like, I didn't even know what it was. I knew it was a red and white flower that could pass as a fish.
It was a fish. He asked if it was a fish.
I wasn't sure.
Mixing a yellow and white. He did. He asked if it was a fish.
Well, because a lot of times they take pictures of betas with a black background, and this has very frilly beta fin.
It does look like a beta. That's why I picked it. So he wasn't wrong. But am I going to give him trouble? Yeah, I am. Because why would? Now I'm going to take my green and my magenta, and you can see I've got a little bit of a nice gray purple happening there.
Mm-hmm.
Adding some shadows. Sometimes you got to have some shadow.
Yeah.
And then I'll sit a minute, and then I'll come back and add some highlights that will pull those petals out from each other. Because then they'll be ready to be out from each other. Until then, I'm going to take my magenta and my cad red. I'm going to come to this curled petal. And I'm going to add a little kind of color. And then even a little white. And keep that curl going. Now this is really fun through here. This little crazy white structure has got a lot going on. I may change up my water because it's getting a little pink. Put a new water there. And let's again start at this outside edge. So if I've got the cad red and the quin magenta, you see me mixing them together with my round brush. I have not changed brushes. I'm going to put a little petal light out there. I'll come back with a pop of white in a second. I know it was there. Look at that little petal of what?
Mm-hmm.
I can take a little yellow into my red. Highlight it a bit. Highlight it a bit. Weird. Sitting out there going, I don't know what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's like, you know what you're doing. It's like, no, I don't know.
You know.
And I have to kind of cross in front of all these white flowers that I know I'm going to cross in front of this.
Mm-hmm.
Just so that this has that structure. Not too bad. Rinsing, rinsing, rinsing. And then I'll go ahead and get a little white right now. There you go. See? Put it there because we can. While this is having a dry and I think about what it's done, let's get some white onto the brush. And I'm going to come right here. Add some little tip color. And little folds and floors. I'll get into my shadow colors. If I need it to be in a deeper shadow, I can kind of come out from here with my purple, that's the shadow. And then play with that petal as needed. I'll come into the white. You can get some pink into it. On the toe of my brush. And again, I'm playing with the flow of the tulip. I treat it like water or anything that has a lot of complex curves. Right? It has a lot of complex curves. What you want to do is break down the curves and paint what you see. And then even small areas of the flower like that, which are just crazy delicate and involved, you're in it. You're good. You're doing it. And get a little of my red and magenta and some white here. And then where I need a darker color, I can come in and add that. Just pulling those little stripey bits in. And why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you pull all those little levels and bits in? You would. Orange here. And if it's a complicated thing, that's wonderful. Like that, just that complicated side flower, and we've got that beautiful petal. It's coming up, and it's open, and it looks amazing.
I've been trying to catch up on There's been a very interesting sub-conversation about the little red rat slash aardvark there that's taking a bite of the cheese in your palette.
Weird. Guys, animals you see in the palette. So if you're seeing animals in the palette, you absolutely should be telling your friends that you're an artist. Seriously, guys, if you are seeing animals in the palette, tell your friends you're an artist. Don't waffle on that anymore. I'm adding a little bit of red here at the edge of the frill. And these short strokes. And kind of defining that petal from that petal. And you can see it makes them two different petals. Now, I'm going to dry all this and come in and get this, the bottom petal, which was like,
That's what it was?
that's the word that describes it. That's the word that describes that petal. By the way, if you're wondering, does she make noises like that when she paints on her own? John will tell you.
Mm-hmm.
He'll be like, "Are you okay?" Because I'll see a petal like that and I'll go, and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm totally fine. Please don't make a gif of me making that ugly face."
You sound like the Theramins from Galaxy Quest. Remember the little aliens?
You will save us. I haven't 100 times. All right, I'm going to dry it, and I'll be right back.
Okay, so while she's doing that, I'll remind you guys to have a good day. You know, make sure you paint, take care of yourself, do something fun. Thank you for coming and hanging out with us. Thank you for being part of our community. We just love being here with you guys, being able to see you and make funny jokes about pop culture while we paint. So, yeah, that's just thank you for being part of our community. Just enjoy it a lot. And don't use heat, because this dry break is slightly longer than I expected. But there she is.
I'm back.
You're back.
From
All right.
outer space.
I'm going to...
10. 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. I'm fine. It's fine. Wasn't this fun today? It's exactly what we needed. Breathing in the good. Letting go of the I don't know what your is in your week. Maybe your week's perfect. But my week is always a mixed bag. And so I like to breathe in my creativity. And let go of the stuff that is wearing me down. Breathe in the creativity. Let go of the stress. Nice. Sip my lukewarm coffee.
What was that? Your
Oh,
lukewarm
okay.
coffee?
No, it wasn't. I don't know what I did drop. I was trying
okay.
to get your attention with my lukewarm coffee. And
Oh, you were like, warm up my lukewarm coffee.
But I dropped something for sure. It hit the ground. I heard it go.
That was the tape.
Okay. All right. So there's this very complicated petal that's going on here. And first we're going to want to, kind of get into the basis of it. And the basis of it's going to be one of these like very light yellow greens. With like a lot of white. I'm kind of thinking about that color. Here, I leave a little bit of a stroke there, and everything under in this petal is in this range, and then these unusual little white frills come around. But to get the frills to show, I've got to get the depth of the yellow, if that makes sense, so that I can make the white show. Otherwise the white won't show, because there's got to be a value difference. I am, however, paying attention to the directionality that things are growing to even do this. This is a very weird shape that I've had to paint in there. And what I'll do now, and this is going to be wild when you see it happen, I'm going to dry it, and then I'm going to come over and layer the curl. Like a wave.
There's the butt. She snuck up on me there. I was over here trying to read chat.
Now, sometimes I do pick paintings because I look at it and I go, well, that looks a little challenging. So, if you're like, did she pick on purpose because it's hard. We all need to challenge ourselves. We all need to, it doesn't matter who you are, how long you painted, you can't get comfortable. You always have to be challenging yourself. If you get to a place where you're confident and comfortable and then you don't ask for any more, well, then you're stuck and you're that person that paints that one flower into the end of time. So if you want to constantly be evolving and changing and growing in your art, you're going to have to get into some uncomfortable spaces. And sometimes when you see a picture and it's like, that's the one you got to jump in on. That one right there, the one that made you go, I don't know what to think about that. That's the one that you jump in on and you stretch yourself and you grow. Even if it's a struggle through that, the next flower you paint, you will see all kinds of elements that you never noticed before. All right. I'm going to get a little of my white and I'll go ahead and get some of the purple into that white that sort of tones it. It's white, but not perfectly white. And the back of this kind of goes like this. So to fold it over. See how I'm curling the petal? And I'll take the purple and I'll come up underneath and kind of shade it. Come over here, phthalo green and quinacridone magenta, and make that shadow color for me, will you? All right, only if you want this. We're just curling the petal. Curl the wave, curl the petal, curl it. Because when you're willing to curl it, you're going to get somewhere. And you do want to curl it. And then I'm going to get a little bit of pink. I'm going to come to the tips of these. And I'm going to edge them just a bit. You see that? Why we do it.
Yeah.
Why we do what we do. Look at that curl. And come along here with a little bit of pink. You see the pink? Crazy petals. That's what we got to do.
Wow.
Back into the pink. And I'm going to come here, bend a little petal back, just a little bit. Just went that way, so we're going to do it. Parrot tulip, most awesome of tulips. I just really dig it. Take a little yellow and white. It's okay if it gets some green in it. And come here. And this one's going to be a little challenging, and I've got to kind of examine it this way. looking pretty good. Counter curls. Why? Because we could. Too much water on my brush. If you get too much water, you won't get a thick enough application. So you might have to come there and, what are you doing? He'll be like, oh no. And a little pink there. Curling that up. It curls, it curls, it curls. It finds its little twirl. Clean up that little petal line. Sometimes when you're painting something, you'll be like, oh, that looks awkward. That's when you sit there and you go, but the flower doesn't have to stay that way. If it needs a readjust you should do. There we go, guys. Isn't that beautiful? It's like a dancer. It's like a dancer.
Mm-hmm.
How fun is that? This is a great use of your time. So, just practice. Go with the flow. Literally go with the flow. We're at the end, baby.
I know.
I'm signing it. Isn't that exciting?
I was just catching all the little questions at the end that I needed to make sure we got.
Is there any questions I need to answer as I'm signing and going out? If I miss any questions ever in a show, just come in and put them in the comments and I will get them.
This is a good one. Why don't you just recover on the way out? When should you varnish an acrylic painting?
Okay, so a bunch of stuff came out pretty recently, and basically you don't have to varnish acrylic painting. You don't have to.
Why is that?
Because they're plastic.
And
Plastic
acrylic
painting.
is pretty tough.
It's pretty tough, and so that was the general consensus, is that you don't have to. Some stuff, man, you have to, right? So here's when you varnish.
That's not.
When you have a lot of different Here I am.
Trying to bring you over.
When you have a lot of different finishes, so some of it's matte and some of it's shiny, and you want it to be all the same finish. You want it to all be matte or all be shiny. It can deepen colors. It can brighten a painting if you use a high gloss. It does absolutely help your painting fade slower. Varnish is another layer of protection. So a lot of times people, if it's going to be out in light in a room on display a lot near windows and stuff, you might want to varnish because it gives you an extra layer of UV protection as well. And it can make it harder to unless you do something called an isolation coat and then a removable varnish, which, trust me, unless you're really, really painting and you already know how to do this, or you're ready to learn how to do this, don't do that, because that's just no fun. Varnish in great weather conditions, not in rain or extreme heat, or like right now, if you're in a place that's having extreme heat, guess what? It's not varnish time. It's not outside.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want extreme heat. You don't want extreme humidity. You want no extremes. You don't want any pet hair dust where you're doing it. You want to do it about, 72 to a week after most paintings, 72 hours to a week after. Are you okay? 72 to a week after most paintings. If it's a thick painting, up to 3 weeks of cure time, and then you can varnish it. Varnishing can make it easier to clean and care for. There's a lot of things that it does do. It's just, here's where you hear reluctance is that as a beginner, the one place you're most likely to just make a mistake and ruin your painting is at the varnish stage. So like, you're really new to painting and you're like, I'm going to varnish. And every varnish, by the way, guys, is a little bit different and a little temperamental, and you really want to read the instructions and you really want to follow the instructions. But like, say you make a mistake, it's hard to fix it, if not impossible. So what I would say is varnish with purpose, varnish with a plan, set yourself up for success. If you're going to do it, make sure you read the instructions. You need to do it on a good day. And if it goes wrong, I don't mind you guys coming in group and asking a question. at all. That's always a good thing to do. But the first thing you should do is call the company, because the company that made the varnish is going to be the most informed to tell you if you can fix the mistake that you made. And you can also ask questions of the company. They will tell you. Mod Podge, by the way, is not a varnish. Mod Podge makes a product that is not Mod Podge, that is a varnish.
Mm-hmm.
But Mod Podge is not a varnish, it's a glue. So don't varnish with Mod Podge. Doesn't work. Or floor varnish. That also is not good. Use a varnish for art. I like spray. I just can't use it, so John uses it for me. This fresh varnish can be okay, though. I could do a whole video about varnish. Oh, wait, I have. I should do some more videos about varnish. And again, we used to think it was a really important thing because the dust would get on your painting and for cleaning and all that. But the ASTM came up with some stuff, and some different restoration places came back with some different advice. So I just try to go with whatever's current in the industry, and then also tell you to do what makes you happy.
Yeah.
Because it's your painting, right? It's not theirs. And I mean, what they have to do with it after you're long and gone is their problem on some basic level. So, you know, you got to make you happy first. Did we enjoy doing the tulip today, guys?
Oh my gosh, everyone so loved doing this.
Isn't this a pretty one?
Yeah.
I love this. I think this is one of my favorite flowers that I've done on the channel. I would do more of these. I really enjoy this. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. And I want to see you at an easel really soon.